strung together some video that I'd like you to take a look at. Now, we all know, and we've seen over the past several months, how the media just doesn't even hide their real hatred of President Trump.
And I didn't know devils could be resurrected, but I feel Hitler in these streets.
And a lot of people assign it to the political views of the media. And I'm one of those people that I believe that the media is, the mask is off. I mean, they always were liberal Democrats. They're all intermarried and related. I mean, it's really incestuous. But it's more than that now. In this video clip that you're going to see, it's a several clips that I found on YouTube that I pulled together. And what you're going to see are all the same media people who are today just trying their best to portray Trump in the worst possible light. All those same people were stating very matter-of-factly back before the election, there's no way this guy Trump is going to win. That's the kind of things that were coming out of their mouths. They were so disdainful and not just skeptical, I mean, but they just like laughed off the possibility that someone like a Donald Trump could actually win.
There's not going to be a President Donald Trump. That's not going to happen.
Donald Trump will not become president.
He's not going to be president. He is not, Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. Take it to the bank. Okay. I guarantee it.
All right, all right.
I think if he becomes the president here, make it great, because the States is already great.
I think that man will be president of the United States right about the time that spaceships come down filled with dinosaurs and red capes.
On that note, Tom, pleasure.
Take it
Thank
from
you very
me.
much.
How about that?
Cheers, Tom.
And then, of course, there's Donald Trump. Donald Trump has been saying that he will run for president as a Republican, which is surprising since I just assumed he was running as a joke.
Donald Trump, just last week, he confirmed to the National Review that he is again considering a run in 2016.
Do it. Do it. Look at me. Do it. I will personally write you a campaign check now on behalf of this country, which does not want you to be president, but which badly wants you to run.
So when you stand and deliver that State of the Union address, in no part of your mind or brain can you imagine Donald Trump standing up one day and delivering a State of the Union address?
Well, I can imagine it in a Saturday night skit. I continue to believe Mr. Trump will not be president.
He will never be president of the United States.
And we better be ready for the fact that he might be leading the Republican ticket next.
I know you don't believe that, but I want to go on.
Sorry to laugh.
Okay, here we are. And which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Of the declared ones, right now, Donald Trump.
And so, right now, Mr. Trump, to answer your call for political honesty, I just want to say, you're not going to be president, all right? But come on, buddy. All, let's say, cow poo-poo aside, there is zero chance we'll be seeing you being sworn in on the Capitol steps with your hand on a giant golden Bible.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability.
And will, to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Yeah!
I'll make a prediction, though, for you. And I don't really get into predictions much, but this one I'll go way out on a limb. Donald Trump will never, ever be president of the United States. That Trump should not be in this race. He's an absurdity. He is a travesty.
Donald Trump will never be elected president of the United States.
Donald Trump is the here today, gone tomorrow candidate for president of the United States. Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. Ever respectful of the fact that the people have not voted, he's not going to be president of the United States.
Let's be clear. Donald Trump will lose the election.
I mean, he had a really good chance to be different and really have a chance to change things, but he doesn't do the work. He's lazy.
We talk about him every day, and we continuously bash him.
He's not going to be the president. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
This will be a wake-up call to the Republican Party. Despite Boris thinking that Donald Trump could win New York, like this, the presidential race is over.
Could I just cut through? I have one thing to say, one thing only, and that is that this race is over. Tomorrow morning, the money will dry up. The Republicans will start to hide. Trump has no place to go. This race, effectively, as of tonight, is no longer a presidential race. I mean, everything I know about presidential politics, and I've been through 5 of them, I've never seen one like this. This race is over. You might as well accept it. And the question now is, how do you minimize damage? And the only way you can do that, it seems to me, is to try to grab hold of some old conservative value things and do what Mondale did in '84, which was try to save a few people down ballot. But as far as Donald Trump's concerned, it will never, ever, ever happen.
President Obama will go down as perhaps the worst president in the history of the United States! Exclamation point at real Donald Trump. Well, at real Donald Trump, at least I will go down as a president.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
I mean, they laughed in people's faces and they blew it off. And now all those people, since Trump lost, have been totally humiliated. And let's be honest, these people in the media have huge, to quote Trump, right? Huge egos. I mean, they can get on Trump for having a gigantic ego. I mean, every building he builds is a monument to his vanity. I get it. But please, these people in the media aren't much better. They really aren't. They have been shown up. I mean, they're in such a bubble. And that's what comes out in this video, especially the ones prior to the election. They were in such a bubble, believing that there was no possible way that Trump could win, that when he did, the shock still hasn't worn off. And so now what they're trying to do, they are really trying to reverse the election by running every fabricated story they could find. Think about this, folks. Think about this. You have people that are in the government right now that are holdovers from the Obama administration all throughout the federal agencies, not just in the White House, there too, but not just there, all throughout federal agencies. Lots of those people, hundreds of them, have to be approved by the Senate. They're not cabinet level, they're sub-cabinet level, but they still have to be approved by the Senate. Chuck Schumer's not approving them. He's taking his time approving them, getting them a vote. And what's happening is what was reported in the Washington Post back in January. There's coordination going on between the old Obama campaign organization and Obama holdovers still in government. Those people are conspiring to slow down, defeat the Trump agenda. That happens to be sedition. And sedition is punishable by very long prison terms. So there's a lot of law breaking going on here. And it's serious law breaking. It's subversive law breaking. The other thing that's happening is that those people are able to act as anonymous sources to a media only too willing, due to their humiliation, to float false stories that come from anonymous sources. And think about it. It's perfect. What do they have to worry about? Nothing, because the anonymous source will never be given up. The anonymous source may be breaking the law, but the anonymous source will never be given up by the reporter. Reporters will go to jail for their anonymous sources, and it's perfect. So the anonymous source tells a phony story. The reporter reports it because that's what he was told, and he's only too happy to do it because he hates Trump, just like the guy that gave him the false story. And that's why you have so much crap in the news. I mean, let me just tell you today, Trump is in Israel. And the Daily Mail from England is floating a news story that Melania Trump slapped away President Trump's hand as he tried to hold her hand to walk with her. And that's the headline. And that makes you think, well, Melania Trump must be very upset with Donald Trump for some reason. There's trouble in the Trump family, right? That's the impression you get from the headline and maybe the first couple of paragraphs. But then you read into the article, and what you find is, and they show a picture of it too, you find that Trump was walking on a carpet, but he was close to the edge of the carpet, and Melania was just off the edge of the carpet. So she couldn't walk on the carpet and hold his hand. So that's, in all likelihood, and even the article says this, but you have to read it to see it. The article says that she slapped away his hand because she couldn't walk on the carpet and walk with him, because the carpet was too narrow. And so even further into the article, it says, it puts the caveat, but this isn't an indication of any trouble because they were seen holding hands later on a couple of different occasions. So why even print it? See, this is what they mean when they say fake news. That's a bullcrap story from end to end. And they cover themselves by slipping in the truth far enough down because they know most people are just going to see the headline and roll their eyes and move on. And the very few people are going to read enough of the article to know that it's not true. But this is the state of affairs we have. Now, what you're going to find in a lot of this, particularly from the way the media is treating stuff, these people are trying to recover their lost reputations because now they need to destroy Trump. It sort of reminds me of when I was working for a major executive, and we gave some information to that executive in the company I worked for, and there was a possibility that the information we gave was not correct. And what ended up happening is that my boss said to me, goes, well, now it is correct. In other words, even if it's wrong, well, now it's going to be right because we have to make it right. And that's exactly how the media is treating Trump now. They were wrong, but they want to drive him out of office because they can say, see, we were right. That's all it's about. It's and the fact that they are also on the left side of politics is an important factor, but it's not the driving factor. The driving factor here is ego. There's a lot of ego going on here. Ego on all sides. I mean, Trump's ego he's famous for his ego. Let's be honest about that. And the politicians in Washington, they see themselves as the elite. And that's Democrats and Republicans. It's not just the Democrats. Although for the Democrats, this is a little bit more desperation because, very important here, they can't allow Trump to be successful. And why is that? Well, of course you would say because he's a Republican, but it's more than that. You see, the Democrats have been getting blasted at the state and local level, and they've lost congressional seats and Senate seats ever since Barack Obama got elected. So they need to reverse that trend or they're done. They're really done as a party. They're going to have to reorganize into something different. And they don't want to do that. So they have to make Trump fail, and they're going to make him fail any way can. So that's what the Democrats are up to. The Republicans just don't want to do what Trump wants to do because he actually may succeed in changing things. And that's something they don't want because they like their lifestyle. Because just look it up yourself, what it is to be a senator, what it is to be a congressman, all the perks of the office that you have. I mean, think about how hard the job must be when you can be 100 years old and still be doing it. I mean, that was what Strom Thurmond, wasn't he 100 years old when he was a senator still? And other senators are well into their 90s, well into their 80s. How many people do you know in their 80s and 90s still working? Right? These people, they travel all the time. I mean, how many 85-year-olds do you know travel to and across the country every week? Because when Congress is in session, that's what happens. Congress stays in session Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then the rest of the week, they're traveling back and forth to their districts. That's the kind of job these people have. They don't want to give up that stuff because they get a lot of stuff for it. Every congressman represents over 700,000 people. That's a lot of businesses. That's a lot of business interests. There's a lot of people vying for your attention. And senators, forget it. It's even more, right? It's a whole state. But the point I'm making is that Trump is in there ready to throw a hand grenade into that whole mess. To blow it up. At least that's what his rhetoric is, and it seems that he is moving in that direction. So he's making a lot of enemies. And that is part of the reason why he's being blocked on so many levels. So what I tried to do in these videos here is show you on a human level what the motivation is for a lot of the people that are opposing Trump right now, because so many of them just lost not just the election, but they lost reputation and status because they were wrong. They don't like being wrong. If they can finesse their way around, it's one thing. But this is hard to finesse your way around. I mean, Donald Trump's win in November was a gigantic surprise for these guys. I mean, if you've been watching my videos, you weren't that surprised because you knew from watching some of the videos that I did and posted on YouTube prior to the election that there were signs that Trump had a real chance to win. And that the Democrats were just blowing it off. I mean, how could Hillary Clinton not expect that Wisconsin, for example, let's just use Wisconsin for a sec. How could Hillary Clinton not expect that Wisconsin could be up for grabs when it went from solid Democrat state legislative chamber, state Senate, and governor's jobs to all Republican during the time that Obama was president? And not only that Scott Walker won 3 elections in a year and a half. How could she not believe that if a guy like Scott Walker could win 3 times in like a year and a half or whatever it was, how could she not think that Donald Trump might hold some appeal to the voters of Wisconsin? And why didn't she? I mean, how could she be that blocked off to not know that she needed to fight for votes there? Trump won easily in the Electoral College, but let's be very fair here. He won very narrowly in all of these, what they called the blue wall states. He won very narrowly there. I mean, that meant a lot of voters had to shift their vote from the last presidential election to this one in order for Trump to win, but he still won narrowly. And that means that if Hillary Clinton would have spent much time there, that maybe she would have won the election. That's the real thing here that I think sticks in the craw of a lot of the Democrats that are in the know. They feel like, man, how could she have blown that? Because a lot of those states that she lost, several of them, all elected Republican governors. And And if they're going to elect a Republican statewide, what makes you think they're not going to elect a presidential candidate? I mean, it could just as easily happen. I mean, maybe different dynamics in the election process, but it's still possible. And she completely missed that, completely. And she lost. And you know what? The country is better for it. It really is. Donald Trump is proving to be a much better president than anybody really expected him to be, particularly the people who hated him. And that's why they're just driving these other memes so much harder. But at least now, from this video that I just showed you, you got a better idea, I think, as to why. I mean, no matter how humiliated would you be if you went out there and you just were doing what these people did? You'd look pretty bad. And they did. And that's why they're doing what they're doing. That's all I have for today. And I hope you enjoyed the video. And I'll speak to you soon.